Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am NOR-AIN Kusain, Bais 3A. So I am the first reporter from Group 5. So now I am going to discuss the assigned topic to me, which is the colonialism. So what is colonialism? So colonialism is a practice or policy of control by one people or power over the people or areas, often by establishing colonies and generally with the aim of economic dominance. Which means, ang colonialism ay isang policy or practices ng isang makapangyarihang bansa upang kontrolin pa ang isang bansa. Madalas ang dahilan ng colonialism ay ang layunin nila na umangat pa ang ekonomiya ng kanilang bansa. So in other words, it is the practices by which a powerful country directly control less powerful countries and uses their resources to increase its own power and wealth. Colonialism has existed since ancient times. The concept is most strongly associated with the European colonial period, starting with the 15th century when some European states established colonizing empires. So, ang colonialism ay umiral pa noong 15th century na itinatag ng mga European states. Historian Philip Hoffman calculated that by 1800 before the Industrial Revolution, Europeans already controlled at least 35% of the globe, and by 1914 they had gained control of 84% of the globe. In the aftermath of World War II, colonial powers retreated between 1945 and 1975, over which time nearly all colonies gained independence, entering into change colonial so-called post-colonial and neo-colonialist relations. So according to Philip Hoffman, noong 1800 before Revolution industry, na kontrol ng mga European ang hindi bababa sa 35% ng mundo. At hindi nagtagal noong 1914, nakuha din nilang kontrolin ang 84% na bahagi ng mundo. So after World War II, colonial powers ay unti-unting humina between 1945 and 1975. At sa paglipas ng panahon, halos lahat ng colonies gained independence, entering into change colonial called post-colonial and neo-colonialist. So there are 6 types of colonialism. First is the settler colonialism. It involves large-scale immigration by settlers to colonies, often motivated by religious, political, or economic reasons. This form of colonialism aims largely to supplant prior existing populations with a settler one and involves large number of settlers immigrating to colonies for the purpose of settling down and establishing settlements. The second one is the exploitation colonialism. It involves fewer colonies and focuses on the exploitation of the natural resources or labor to the benefit of the metropole. This form consists of trading posts as well as larger colonies where colonists would constitute much of the political and economic administration. The European colonization of Africa and Asia was largely conducted under the auspices of exploitation colonialism. The third one is the surrogate colonialism. It involves a settlement project supported by a colonial power, in which most of the settlers do not come from the same ethnic group as the ruling power. The fourth one is the internal colonialism. It is a notion of an even structural power between areas of a state. The source of exploitation comes from within the state. This is demonstrated in the way control and exploitation may pass from people from the colonizing country to an immigrant population within a newly independent country. Number 5 is the national colonialism. It is a process involving elements of both settler and internal colonialism, in which nation building and colonization are symbiotically connected, with the colonial regime seeking to remake the colonized peoples into their own cultural and political image. The goal is to integrate them into the state, but only as reflections of the state's preferred culture. The Republic of the China in Taiwan is the archetypal example of a national colonialist society. And last but not the least is the trade colonialism. It involves the undertaking of colonialist ventures in support of trade opportunities for merchants. So this form of colonialism was most prominent in 19th century Asia, where previously isolationist states were forced to open their ports to Western powers. Examples of these include the Opium Wars and the opening of Japan. So that's all. Shukran and wassalam.